choosing one life over another. She was sitting beside my younger brother Felix Goodman's hospital bed, her face filled with worry as she prayed, "Felix, please don't scare me like this. Wake up, okay?" My father stood nearby, his face twisted in fury. If Sean had done his job and protected him, Felix wouldn't be in this state. "Just wait, I'm going to beat him to death." I stood and watched at the side, bitterness rising in my chest. "Dad, there's no need for that. I'm almost dead. Not that you guys would care." At that moment, the doctors were gathered around Felix's bed in a circle. After confirming that his injuries were only scrapes and nothing major, one of the older doctors finally dared to bring me up. He asked cautiously, "Ms. Blanchard, are you sure we shouldn't check on Sean? His injuries from the crash seem very serious." Mom's gentle expression instantly turned into one of disgust as she roared, "What's he trying to pull now? Playing dead? Doesn't he realize what he's done to his brother?" I stared at her stunned. Though my heart had already stopped, it still somehow throbbed with pain. I was their son too. Did they really not care about me at all? Suddenly Mom picked up her phone and dialed my number. A nurse brought the phone to my ear. Instead of hearing the concern I had hoped for, all I heard was contempt. "Sean Goodman, when are you going to crawl out of bed and apologize to your brother?" My heart instantly turned cold as whatever hope I had left withered away. Of course, she never cared about me. Come to think of it, when I first was brought into the hospital, I had begged Mom to save me. But all she said was, "Do you have to fight for attention even at a time like this? Don't you realize that your brother nearly broke a bone?" Then she turned and walked away without a second glance, taking the entire medical team with her to tend to Felix. How could she have the capacity to love me? The nurse, unable to bear it any longer, took my phone and said, "Ms. Blanchard, Sean can't hang on for much longer." But Mom, still convinced that I was faking it, let out a mocking laugh. "How much did that brat pay you to act along with him? I can't believe he's capable of something like this." Just as she finished speaking, Felix, who had been acting unconscious the whole time, finally woke up. He faked a weak voice and asked, "Mom, Dad, how's Sean?" As Mom looked at the obedient, considerate Felix lying on the bed, her expression twisted into even deeper contempt. "Sean, why can't you be more like your brother? He's hurt because of you, and yet he's still worried about you. If you don't get here in the next 3 minutes to apologize, don't bother ever showing your face to me again." She then hung up, her chest heaving with anger. Dad, standing beside her, looked clearly displeased. "Why bother calling him? Isn't it enough that he nearly got Felix killed?" Felix lowered his head, trying to hide the smug look in his eyes. He put on a guilty expression before looking up at them. "Mom, Dad, don't be mad at him. Sean has just never forgiven me for getting the overseas scholarship instead of him. I understand why he hates me." I couldn't help but laugh. Even in my death, Felix was still trying to sow discord between me and my parents. However, my parents would never see through him. In their eyes, he would always be the better son, and they would never think about the true reason for the car accident. Just as expected, Mom's face immediately turned cold. "What's the point of sending someone that selfish to study abroad? Who knows how twisted he'd become after being abroad?" Felix gently said, "Mom, don't be angry. I'm sure Sean has his reasons." Mom's expression immediately softened. "Felix, you're too kind. That's why Sean keeps taking advantage of you. That was always Felix's strength. Knowing exactly what to say to win our parents' hearts. I knew that even if I stood right in front of them and told them all of Felix's cruel behavior over the years, they'd only slap me across the face and accuse me of making things up, saying that I was just jealous of him. After all these years, I had gotten used to it." In the middle of their conversation, my older sister, Ashley Goodman, burst into the room. Her footsteps were hurried as she anxiously rushed to check on Felix. The moment she heard about the accident, she immediately flew in from another state without a second thought. And just like my parents, she only cared about Felix. Once she confirmed he was okay, Ashley let out a sigh of relief before fuming. "I've always said that Sean is a curse to our family. Ever since Felix was born, he's been hurting him again and again." Felix took the opportunity to act pitiful. "Don't be angry, Ash. I'm sure Sean didn't mean to hurt me." The whole family burst into an uproar upon hearing this. Dad slammed the table. "What, he actually caused the car accident to hurt you?" Mom clenched her teeth. "That bastard. I'll make him pay." The look in Ashley's eyes was venomous, as if she wished she could rip me into pieces. Felix flinched, as though he realized things had gone too far and they might start questioning the story. He hurriedly said to them, "Please don't be mad at Sean, okay? Maybe I remembered it wrong. No matter what, he's still my brother. He wouldn't do something like that." Ashley gently tapped his forehead. "You're just too naive. You have no idea how evil some people can be." At this point, Mom chimed in. "It's truly a blessing to have a son like you. All right, I'll listen to you. Let's forget about that ungrateful brat and focus on getting you well again." The warm golden light of the setting sun spilled across Felix's hospital bed. Watching the four of them together, a happy, united family, I felt an indescribable ache in my chest. In that moment, I realized how out of place my soul truly was. It was as if I wasn't one of them at all, like I was just a stray dog that wandered into their home. I wanted to leave, but my spirit was bound tightly to Mom's side. I couldn't speak. I could only watch and endure their contempt in silence. A few days later, under the family's meticulous care, Felix was discharged from the hospital. Mom was busy packing his things, while Dad had already parked the car right outside the hospital door, afraid Felix might have to walk even a single extra step. And Ashley wouldn't even let him put on his shoes by himself. On the way home, Mom muttered irritably, "Sean is really something else. He didn't even visit his brother at the hospital even once, let alone apologize. I'm going to teach him a lesson once we get home." Dad glanced at Mom and said coldly, "I told you keeping him at home was asking for trouble." Sooner or later, something bad was bound to happen. Hearing the words "teach him a lesson" left me feeling a complicated mix of emotions. Long-buried memories came flooding back into my mind. Since I was young, Mom had always favored Felix. I was expected to always give in to him. It was all because on the day Felix was born, I had accidentally spilled water, causing Mom to slip and go into premature labor. The sight of him lying in the incubator broke my entire family's hearts. Dad had smacked me so hard that my eardrum burst. "You're a jinx. Your brother nearly died on the day he was born because of you." Lying weakly in the hospital bed, Mom had looked at me with eyes full of disappointment. Then in elementary school, Dad had beaten me so badly that I couldn't get out of bed for 3 days, just because I fought with Felix over a toy car. It was my favorite toy. Even though it had come as a freebie along with the gift Dad bought for Felix during a business trip, it had become my most cherished possession. But Felix, who already had boxes full of toy cars, insisted on fighting me for that one. In the tug of war, he suddenly screamed and burst into tears. Mom rushed over, distressed, and hugged him while crying and yelling at me, "Sean Goodman, your brother has already suffered so much because of you. What more do you want from him? It wasn't me." Before I could even explain, Felix squeezed out a few tears and said, "Mom, don't be angry. It was my fault. I shouldn't have made trouble by fighting with Sean over a toy." When Dad got home and saw that scene, he immediately pulled me aside and started beating me. "A cold-hearted kid like you doesn't deserve to stay in this house. Keeping you here is just waiting for a disaster to happen." I cried and begged him to stop. But the more I cried, the more convinced Dad was that I was faking it, and the harder he hit. Mom and Ashley just stood at a distance, watching coldly. It was as if I was their enemy and they wouldn't be satisfied until Dad beat me to death. From that day on, whenever I made Felix cry, it would mean receiving scoldings or beatings from my parents. Eventually, I stopped fighting Felix for their love, stopped trying to explain, and stopped trying to get close. And now, they left me cold and lifeless on the operating table. As soon as they got home, Felix flopped onto the couch. The moment he said he was hungry, Ashley eagerly went into the kitchen, excited to show off her newfound cooking skills. Normally too delicate to cook, she was now scrolling through her phone for nutritious meal plans, afraid of causing Felix to have an upset stomach. Dad presented him with the latest luxury gaming console, saying it was a welcome home gift to celebrate his cheating death. Mom had already cleaned Felix's room thoroughly and filled it with air-purifying plants, saying that fresh air was good for his recovery. Felix simply lounged on the couch and played games, yet that was enough to tug at the heartstrings of the entire family. Meanwhile, my soul was trailing quietly behind them. This house, once so familiar, now felt ice cold. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Standing at the door was someone I knew all too well. My girlfriend, Caitlyn Winter. Felix S. played at the. She stepped inside and immediately fussed over Felix's condition. "Mr. and Mrs. Goodman, I heard Felix was discharged today. I brought some supplements for him." Felix instantly dropped the game, controller putting on a shy smile. "Caitlyn, you didn't have to, I'm already feeling much better." Caitlyn flashed him a sweet smile. Usually cold and aloof with me, she was now gentle and caring with Felix. I watched her, an unfamiliar feeling rising in my chest. Suddenly she asked, "Where's Sean?" if she hadn't brought me up. I doubt anyone would have even remembered I existed. When my name was mentioned, Mom's face darkened. "Why are you bringing up that ungrateful brat? After I scolded him the other day, he didn't even bother coming home. It's just as well, since he likes staying out so much, he can stay away forever. The house feels peaceful without him causing trouble every day." Caitlyn quickly nodded. "It's better if he doesn't come back, we don't want him disturbing Felix's rest." Ashley walked out holding some supplements and said playfully, "So have you decided when to break up with Sean? If you don't move fast, someone else might snatch Felix away. Caitlyn lowered her head shyly. I was actually planning to talk to Felix about it today. A stinging sensation welled up in my throat. I let out a self-mocking laugh and turned away, not wanting to watch any longer. I had long grown used to the feeling of being unloved anyway. After dinner, Mom grew irritable for some reason. She returned to her room alone and began searching through her phone. I walked over to look. She was looking for my number, calling it again and again. But of course there was no answer. Eventually she slammed her phone down in frustration. You won't even answer my calls now. Do you think anyone actually cares about you? I wanted to tell her I'm dead. There's no way for me to answer your call. But then she called the nurse from the hospital. Did Sean tell you what kind of stunt he's trying to pull? Tell him to stop being so shameless and come back to apologize to his brother. Then, maybe I'll consider letting him come home. There was a brief silence on the other end before the reply came. Ms. Blanchard, Sean passed away a week ago. His heart was ruptured in the car accident, but you had called all the doctors to Felix's room, so there was no one left to operate on him. Mom froze in shock as she heard the nurse's words. Refusing to believe it, she tried to recall the car accident that day, frowning as she said confidently, "That's impossible. He was in the same car as Felix and Felix is already out of the hospital. How could he have been so badly injured? Don't think I can't see through his little tricks. He's just trying to compete with Felix for attention, wanting me to worry about him. I'm warning the both of you, stop with this ridiculous act. Otherwise, it won't end well for you too." Seeing that Mom wouldn't believe her no matter what she said, the nurse sighed helplessly. "Ms. Blanchard, I'm really not lying. If you don't believe me, just go to the morgue and see for yourself." Mom began to grow anxious. She paced the room back and forth, her footsteps heavy and frantic. "You good-for-nothings are ganging up to deceive me. You really don't know your place." Before the nurse could respond, Mom angrily jabbed at the screen to end the call. Dad must have heard Mom yelling because he opened the door and asked, "Caitlyn's still here? Why are you shouting like a lunatic in the room?" Mom clutched her phone tightly to her chest and looked at Dad helplessly. "The nurse just said that Sean is already dead." "That can't be true, can it?" Dad rolled his eyes. "Don't be so gullible. If the crash had really been that bad, that selfish brat would have dragged Felix down with him. How would Felix still be standing here perfectly fine?" Caitlyn came over to comfort Mom too. "Exactly, Mrs. Goodman. Sean is tough, he won't die so easily. If anything, it's a wonder no one else has died because of him." Ashley, lazily munching on an apple, muttered, "Wouldn't it be good if that annoying brat was dead?" What's there to be worried about? Though I always knew they were biased toward Felix, I never expected that I was so worthless in their eyes. After all these years, even if they didn't love me, they should at least have known me. With my personality, how could I ever do something so despicable? How could I possibly joke about life and death just for the sake of competing for attention? As they each took turns comforting Mom, she straightened up and regained her usual domineering posture. "Tomorrow morning. I'll go to the hospital myself to expose their lies. If Sean's not in the morgue, I'll break his legs myself. And that nurse will be fired. Perhaps even God pitied me because a soft drizzle began falling outside the window. Their seemingly light and casual words were like loud, vicious slaps across my face. Though it hurt, I couldn't cry out. Even now, it was painfully clear that everyone was wishing I were dead. Early the next morning, Mom skipped breakfast and rushed straight to the hospital. Dad was worried about her and tagged along. On the way, Mom kept complaining to Dad that they were about to waste another trip. But the moment she saw my body in the hospital morgue, she stumbled back a step in horror. She collapsed against the wall, clutching herself tightly. How could this be? How did this happen? I remember clearly that his injuries weren't that serious. He looked perfectly fine. It was true that my injuries looked minor. Apart from a few scrapes on my arm from shielding Felix, I looked unharmed on the outside. But it was precisely because I had turned my body to shield Felix during the crash that I absorbed the full force of the impact, and it caused my heart to rupture. The reason I seemed fine was because as my organs failed, my body was flooded with adrenaline. As a hospital director with medical knowledge, Mom would have seen the signs if she had paid close attention. Unfortunately, she never spared me a second glance because all her focus had been on Felix. Dad reached out, seemingly about to touch my face. But perhaps my death was too gruesome for him. His hand froze midair. Once they got the news, Felix and Ashley rushed over. Felix sensed that something was wrong when he saw my parents' grief-stricken faces. He ran straight to my bed and dropped to his knees, yelling, "Sean, why are you so foolish? Is it because I took your scholarship that you hate me so much? Did you die just to get back at me?" After crying loudly, he dropped to the floor in fake remorse. "I'm sorry, Sean, it's all my fault. If it weren't for me, this wouldn't have happened." Then he started slapping himself across the face. Seeing this, my parents and Ashley quickly moved to stop him, momentarily forgetting their sorrow. Mom hugged him tightly. "That's enough, Felix, it's not your fault. His own greed killed him and he got what he deserved." As I heard him mention the scholarship incident, my mind drifted back to 2 years ago. I was 4 years older than Felix. The year he took his college entrance exam was my senior year in college. Knowing I couldn't rely on my parents, I had studied relentlessly since I was a child, determined to build a life for myself and escape this home. In college, I graduated at the top of my class 4 years in a row, landing me a postgraduate program with a world-renowned college. Meanwhile, Felix, who never took his studies seriously, failed the college entrance exam and returned home saying he wanted to study abroad. Despite knowing he would waste the opportunity, my parents still supported him. That night, Mom prepared a lavish dinner just for me. Throughout the meal, she made sure my plate was never empty. "Sean, we only have enough money to send one of you abroad. Your brother just finished high school. Why don't you let him go?" I set my fork down. "Mom, it'll be a waste if you send Felix abroad. I've been accepted into a top college in the world." It was the first time I had ever dared to defy Mom. I had always tolerated everything silently. Seeing me suddenly not give in to Felix, she slammed her plate on the table. "Sean Goodman, your father and I raised you up after all these years. Now that you're about to graduate college, shouldn't you be thinking about how to earn money to repay us now? Are you really okay letting your brother, fresh out of high school, miss out on the chance to further his studies? How could you be so heartless?" The more she spoke, the more emotional she became. "Are you trying to drive your father and me into the grave?" Maybe because I still longed for the tiniest sliver of Mom's love, I relented in the end, saying, "Don't be angry, Mom. I'll let Felix have the opportunity." But now I regret that decision. If I hadn't given up that chance, I might have gotten a good job overseas instead, and I wouldn't have died so miserably. A few days later, perhaps out of guilt, Mom held a somewhat decent funeral for me. Apart from some relatives and friends, some doctors from Mom's hospital attended too. The nurse who once tried to help me was also there. She walked up to my grave with a bouquet of flowers and said, "I'm sorry. If I'd been a little braver back then, maybe you'd still be here." Among all these people, she was the only one who had ever helped me, yet she was also the only one who apologized. In contrast, Mom showed no remorse at all. Instead of apologizing, she criticized me as if doing so could wash away her guilt. Sean was a difficult child from the start. He couldn't let go of the past and always tried to hurt his brother. This time he finally paid the price for it. Everyone present knew how biased she was toward Felix. They were also well aware of the injustices I had endured all these years, but no one wanted to cause trouble, so they pretended to comfort her. Amid the noise, a wail of sirens suddenly rang out. A group of police officers pushed through the crowd and approached Mom and Felix. Mom stood rooted to the spot, puzzled. "Officers, is there someone you're looking for?" The lead officer held up a photo to confirm her identity. "Are you Ms. Anita Blanchard?" Mom nodded, bewildered. The officer presented her with an arrest warrant. "Please come with us. You've been reported for abusing medical resources, practicing medicine illegally, and causing a death." Felix immediately stood in front of her. "That's nonsense. My mother is a dedicated doctor. How could she do such things? You guys need evidence before arresting someone." He then turned to the crowd and shouted, Who reported my mom?" The nurse, who had been quietly standing in a corner, stepped forward timidly. "I did." Felix lunged at her and grabbed her collar, raising his fist at her. But before he could strike, a police officer stopped him, raising his voice and warning sternly, "Sir, please calm down. We are simply doing our job according to the law. If you won't cooperate, we'll have to take you in as well. If you want evidence, we can show you." With that, he fished out his phone and displayed a series of records, evidence of Mom's years of power abuse and misuse of hospital resources. The most jarring piece was a screenshot from a chat group the day of the accident. It showed a text from Mom that read, "Felix was in a car accident. I want all doctors to drop what they're doing and go to his ward immediately to treat him." Then the police played a video of me lying in the operating room, capturing the entire call between me, Mom and the nurse on the day I died. The evidence was concrete and Mom collapsed on the spot. Felix barely managed to catch her in time. At that moment, another officer whispered something in the lead officer's ear. He took out another photo, compared it carefully to Felix and said, "Mr. Goodman, you're under suspicion of attempted murder. Please come with us as well." His words sent a shockwave through the crowd. Everyone was baffled, including me, while people had suspected Mom of wrongdoing. No one had expected Felix to be involved in something as serious as murder. Felix began to panic, shouting frantically, "That's bullshit. I've never done anything like that. Go ahead and arrest me. I don't believe you have any evidence." The officer calmly played another video. It was a surveillance clip from outside our house, showing Felix sneaking into my car and tampering with the brakes. As he did that, he muttered under his breath, "Go to hell." What he didn't expect was that Mom insisted I drive him that day. With no way out, he had to ride in the same car. Now I realized why he was so nervous that entire time and why he kept urging me to drive slower. Ashley fell to her knees, crying, "Felix, why would you do this?" But I had a good guess. A few months ago, Felix had borrowed money from loan sharks to feed his gambling habit. He couldn't repay them and came begging me for help, but I had no money to give him. When I advised him to turn himself in to the police, he fell to his knees and pleaded, "Please, Sean, you can't report this. If the police get involved, my life is over. They'll break my arms. Please help me, Sean." I didn't want to watch him continue down that path, and I couldn't bear to let our parents' years of effort go to waste, so I bit my tongue and refused. Seeing that I wouldn't budge, he pretended to accept my advice. "Fine, I'll turn myself in. But can you give me 2 days to prepare myself?" He looked so pitiful that I relented again, unknowing to the fact that he was plotting my death to silence me. Finally, the police pulled out my car's dashboard camera footage and played it for Mom. "Take a look. This is your son who died due to your medical malpractice." In the video, I could be seen shielding Felix under my body during the crash. Knowing the truth, my parents and Ashley all looked at Felix in disbelief. Everyone fell into silence. Once Mom finally came to her senses, she lunged forward and grabbed Felix's clothes tightly. "Felix Goodman, you murderer. How could you be so vicious as to kill your own brother?" The more she spoke, the more agitated she became. He raised her hand, wanting to hit him, but was promptly stopped by the police. This was the first time in all these years that I saw Mom lay a hand on him. Realizing things had reached a point of no return, Felix let out a maniacal laugh before turning to look at her, his eyes devoid of any warmth. "I'm vicious. I must have gotten it from you. I'm a murderer. Weren't you the one who called all the doctors into my ward that day, stopping him from getting the emergency surgery he needed? If not for you, how could I have killed him so easily?" Felix's words stabbed into Mom's heart like a steel blade. Her body froze as if all her past mistakes were wrapping around her soul, engulfing her in guilt. That long-buried remorse quietly crept into her heart and consumed her. She grabbed her hair forcefully, eyes wide. She shook her head desperately. "I'm sorry, Sean, it's all my fault. I've wronged you all these years. It's me who deserves to die." Mom stumbled and crawled to my tombstone, choking with sobs as she held it tightly, caressing the small photo of me on it. "Please wake up, Sean. I'm so sorry. I'll kneel down and apologize to you. You wanted to study abroad, right? I'll pay for it. I'll send you there." "No, better yet, I'll go with you," she rambled. She then began to slam her head against the tombstone. The police rushed over to pull her away, but bright red blood had already stained my picture. The sunlight was blinding, shining down on this scene just like the light that once shone on my face when she first held me as a newborn. If only Mom's apology had come sooner, perhaps I could have experienced the warmth of a mother's love in this world. But now it was far too late. I was already dead, and so was my heart. No matter what they said, I could never forgive them. "But Mom, I don't blame you. I just can't come to terms with all the years of being wronged, and I can never accept the despair of being left to die on the operating table by my own mother." After the chaos, the police took Mom and Felix away while Dad and Ashley were brought in to assist the investigation. The nurse who had reported Mom walked up to my tombstone and stood there quietly for a while. Before leaving, she said, "This time I was brave. The people who hurt you are gone now, and I believe the law will bring you justice." Perhaps it was her compassion as a new nurse that made her always feel like a patient's death was somehow her fault. I looked at her and seemed to see my younger self just starting my career and always blaming myself for everything. I gently patted her on the shoulder and tried to comfort her. "This wasn't your fault, don't dwell on it." But sadly, I was just a soul. She couldn't feel my touch, nor could she hear me. Half a month later, the court verdict was announced. Felix was sentenced to death. Mom was sentenced to life imprisonment. Perhaps because my revenge was complete, my soul finally felt free. I could now go wherever I wanted, no longer bound to Mom's side. In those final days, Felix was consumed by the fear of death. Every day, the food brought to him by the guards was knocked to the ground. In just a short week, he had visibly lost a lot of weight. If this had been before, my parents and Ashley would have been heartbroken. But now no one even came to see him. On the day of his execution, I quietly hovered in the air and watched. The moment he died, his soul floated out of his body just like mine once had. He stared at me in terror. "Sean, I'm sorry, I know I was wrong. Please don't kill me, don't kill me." I laughed. "Aren't you already dead?" He looked down at his lifeless body and screamed. His soul then scattered. Only I, a fellow spirit, was able to hear him. Seeing the one who killed me vanish completely was a form of vindication. Mom endured spiritual torment in prison. She would sometimes cry, sometimes laugh, and sometimes run around in a frenzy. Sometimes she'd hit others, and at her worst she'd hit herself. It took 2 guards to hold her down. Eventually, the authorities had no choice but to bring in a psychiatrist. She was diagnosed with trauma-induced mania and sent to a psychiatric hospital. Still, her condition only worsened. She would tell people, "My son is Sean Goodman. He got into a postgraduate program at a world-renowned university and is now studying overseas. When he comes back, I'll bring him to visit you. He's tall, handsome, and has always been such a good kid." Occasionally, she would regain clarity for a brief moment. In those moments, she'd sit quietly on the bed and stare out the window. Maybe it was the bond between mother and child, but I could sense her teetering on the edge of pain and torment. All the lost time had turned into an endless burden of guilt. Before disappearing, I returned to see her one last time. She was sitting quietly by the window as usual, but this time she seemed to see me. She reached out and cupped my face, tears of joy filling her eyes. "Sean, you're back, you came to see me. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me, okay?" She then took out 2 pieces of candy from under her pillow. "I remembered you love candy and saved some just for you." As a child, I did love candy, but she always gave it to Felix, never to me. The spoiled, rotten Felix would gloat when she wasn't around, then pop the candy in his mouth. Since then, I had never touched candy again. I took a step back and shook my head. Mom rubbed her hands together, flustered. "Oh, you're all grown up now, but I still treat you like a little boy." I stared at her in a daze for a long time before saying, "Mom." "Yes," she responded instantly before I could even speak. I continued. "Mom, I don't blame you, but I don't think I'll ever be able to forgive you." She lowered her head, gripping the hem of her shirt tightly. "That's okay. I owe you. It's only right that you can't forgive me." Afraid I might lose control of my emotions, I turned and left without looking back. That night, Ashley received a call. "Your mother's condition has worsened." She bit off her own tongue. "When we found her, she had no vital signs. I'm sorry for your loss." In my final moments, I returned to my own grave, hoping to find closure. There I unexpectedly ran into my girlfriend, Caitlyn, and I sneered, "What's she doing here?" Somehow she seemed to hear me. Her eyes welled up with tears as she looked up, squeezing out a smile. "Sean, is that you? Did you see? I got revenge for you. After you died, I visited your house and pretended to check on Felix. That's how I got the surveillance footage of him tampering with your car and gave it to the police. Only then did I realize that after I died, she had gone to the scene. Though she looked quiet and elegant, she actually loved modifying cars. That was how she immediately noticed that someone had sabotaged my brakes. It turned out that she didn't betray me. She had gotten close to Felix after my death just to gather evidence and avenge me. I floated in front of her. "I'm sorry, Caitlyn, I had misunderstood you. I couldn't marry you in this life, but if there's a next life, I'll marry you as soon as I can." She rolled up her sleeve, revealing a new tattoo. It was a photo of us from when we were together. Through her tears she said, "It's okay, I'll never forget you. In the next life I'll wait for you to marry me." Now free of attachments, I felt lighter. Slowly I began to lose control over my form, and I realized my time in this world had come to an end. For the first time I felt true peace. It was as if I was showing the living that death was not the end of life, but rather the beginning of a new journey. My thoughts returned to the day of the accident. The surgery was successful, bringing an end to my tragic life. The end. And that's a wrap on today's reading here at Booked for Drama. If you felt anything, rage, swoon, second-hand heartbreak, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your fellow drama lovers. If you have any requests, drop them in the comments. Until next time, keep reading and keep the drama on the page.